Midwest Whitetail is brought to you by Realtree, Muddy Outdoors, Frigid Forage, Hoyt Archery, Fuse Accessories, Rocket Broadheads, Scott Archery, Redneck Hunting Blinds, Cabela's, Bloodsport Arrows, Trophy Rock, Yeti Coolers, Non-Typical Wildlife Solutions, Quiet Cat, Deer Grow, Icon Cameras, and Nikon.
Thanks for joining me today for the last episode of the 2015 season of Midwest Whitetail. We're going to have a hunt here from Jared Mills on the last day of the season, the last hour of the last day, and then we're also going to dive into the highlights from the entire 2015 season. It's always bittersweet for me because I love watching these highlight shows. There's a lot of action and they're a lot of fun to sort of go back and relive all those moments. But it's also sad because we know that it's over with for another year. I mean, it's a whole nother, 9 months before we're going to be back in front of you again with the Midwest Whitetail in-season series. Well, let's dive right into Jared's hunt, and then we'll bring you the highlights from the 2015 season.
Hey everyone, welcome to Midwest Whitetail. Before we roll into my January 10th hunt, I was going to share a few encounters I had from what was overall a pretty good late season for me. I had 2 really good encounters with a solid 8-pointer on back-to-back nights. And the first night he came in with great light early in the afternoon. Everything was just working out perfect except for the fact that I was self-filming, and the way that blind was set up, I couldn't film and shoot my bow out of the same window, so it took me a long time to try to get everything figured out, and by that time he had just worked off out of bow range, and I just filmed him outside of bow range for the rest of the evening. The next night I decided to bring Mike with me to the blind so I wouldn't have to deal with that self-filming aspect again, and sure enough this buck comes out a little bit later this time, and especially by the time he finally worked his way into bow range, it was getting really dark. It was still legal shooting light, but I just kept staring at that viewfinder, and it looked really dark, and I just couldn't make up my mind on whether I wanted to shoot the deer with really dark footage or not. And in the end I decided to let him go and not shoot him. And especially in the late season, I tend to get pickier on age because if you think about it, they're so close to making it through another year, making it through the hunting season with a chance to be bigger next year. So I think that played a part of it, but regardless, if I wasn't bow hunting or wasn't filming, I'd probably have a dead deer on the ground. Two great encounters on back-to-back nights with that buck. So going along with that, I saw a number of really good deer that just aren't over 4. A couple 4-year-olds, number of 3-year-olds, and just to highlight a couple, there's a 4-year-old I've had, I don't know how many, at least half a dozen encounters with this year. A deer I've just been calling Scratch, but he's a 4-year-old, that's going to be a great deer next year, and he's all over the place, so I'm excited to get him through the season. And another deer that's either a 2 or 3-year-old, I've been calling him Little George. Just a great frame on him, and you can just see tons of potential. So this is the time of year that I get excited about these deer making it through the season. Part of what I love about the management process is creating this history. So having these encounters late season like this, getting good footage, is all a fun part of the process for me. So that leads me into my final hunt of the season, the night of January 10th. Well, here we go. It is the final day of Iowa's deer season. It's January 10th, and it is freezing. I think wind chill right now is -15. I'm set up overlooking a standing corn food plot for my final sit of the year. And fortunately I'm nice and cozy in this redneck blind, but I think there's going to be a lot of deer movement. I think they're going to feed hard, and especially with these conditions I think they're going to hit the standing corn. There's a lot of other food sources, but everything's ice covered, so that kind of takes away turnips and clover and things like that that the deer can't quite get to through the frozen ice. I think the standing corn is going to be the ticket. I've already seen a number of deer kind of moseying around back in the pines, and I could see them bedded, and a few were getting up and heading out towards the corn. I think there's a couple coming into the corn right now. So I said I expect them to feed hard tonight. I expect to see a lot of deer. I think the biggest challenge is getting the deer in bow range. It's a pretty big plot, and we'll see what happens. It's just a matter if the right deer works its way into bow range. But hopefully, either way, hopefully I have a good hunt and see some good deer. And shouldn't get too cold inside the redneck. So I'll keep you posted as the night goes, and I'm looking forward to seeing what happens. Well, that buck that just came out went to the corn. That's the deer I call Fatty, the one I was hoping to see tonight. It's still really early, so that's a really good sign. It's a good thing he came out early. It gives him time to work down this way and hopefully at some point get in bow range. The only problem is I lost him right now. I'm hoping he'll work back in one of these openings, but it's a lot harder than I thought to see through the standing corn right now, so hopefully I'll be able to keep track of him here as the night moves on, but it's off to a good start. A lot of mature deer moving. Well, I got about half hour left here, and the deer are really pouring out, and the hard part is trying to keep track of which deer are where. That fatty buck that I was hoping to work it into bow range tonight, I've only seen him a couple of times. It's hard to get glimpses. The standing corn's just too thick. You see him in certain lanes, but for the most part I can see when the deer leave the plot, and I haven't seen him leave yet, so I'm hoping and assuming he's still out in the fruit plot somewhere. So as it gets closer to dark, there's these sugar beets out in front of the blind. A lot of the deer are kind of working out here, and even though they're pretty frozen, they're still feeding on a little bit. So I'm gonna sit tight here, and hopefully Fatty will be one of those deer to work this way.
try to be quiet because I'm not positive where he's at. I can see my lighted knock out there, and I'm pretty sure that the arrow, I know the arrow didn't pass through. I'm pretty sure the arrow never fell out at all. It was quartering away really pretty hard, and so I placed it back a little bit, and I think I tucked it up in there. But that's the deer I came in here for tonight, specifically a deer I call Fatty. Can't stop shaking between being negative 20 degrees out and having just killed a buck. I'm pretty excited, but I'm gonna just try to slowly pack up and maybe wait for someone to get here to help film the recovery, and hopefully he's laying right there. It'll be a heck of a way to end the season. Laying right where I thought he would be. He didn't go, but maybe 45 to 50 yards after the shot. Well, here's the deer I've been calling Fatty. Giant bodied, big old mature buck. A deer that I've basically known the entire season. For sure this year, he definitely, on all the trail cam pictures and video, he displayed an aggressive behavior. He's always aggressively working the scrapes. You could see him running other bucks off. Just displayed that bully buck type attitude. So January 10th, last night of Iowa season, I was happy to put my tag on this deer. I think it definitely benefits this farm in the future, especially with the number of good 3 and 4 year olds I encountered this year. I passed a lot of good deer, and taking a deer out like this I think only helps the case for the future. So the other cool thing about this hunt is this is a deer I specifically came to this food plot for tonight. I knew he was in this general area. I encountered him in this food plot New Year's Eve actually. He walked right by that redneck blind. I was in a tree stand over here. So I knew he was hitting this food plot, and he was the deer I came after tonight. So it's always fun when you target one specific buck, no matter how big it is. Obviously this isn't the biggest antlered deer, but it was still a lot of fun targeting one deer tonight, and actually getting that deer to come into bow range and getting a shot basically in the last minute or two of Iowa's deer season. So really cool hunt. I'm glad it all worked out, and I'm glad I got to fill buck tag this year. It was a long season. I had a lot of really exciting hunts. Like I said, passed a lot of good deer, and to end it on a high note is something pretty cool. Great way to end the 2015 deer season.
A couple interesting things on that hunt and that deer specifically. I had mentioned it was so hard to see in that standing corn, and I had just assumed that deer stayed out there the whole time. I just couldn't see him. I'd occasionally get a glimpse of him, but after pulling cards a few days later, he actually left the plot. I had pictures of him at least 200 or 300 yards away from where I shot him at 4:30 in the afternoon. So he actually left, went and ate some big and beastie, and then came back just in the nick of time, just before I was out of camera light. So that's pretty interesting. He left the plot and I didn't even know it. Another interesting thing is after I killed this buck, I went home and I wanted to see what kind of history I had with this deer. I assumed I'd find something. I assumed it was just more a deer that I didn't really pay attention to. And out of almost the 3,000 buck pictures that I saved from the previous year, various age classes, I had exactly one photo of this buck, and it was in an area completely different than where I was getting him basically all season long this year. I had hundreds of pictures of him from October through up until the time I killed him this year, but only one last year. So I thought that was really interesting. It's always fun to see kind of how movement patterns change, personalities change with these bucks from year to year. I think another big factor, especially on this farm, is we lost or killed a number of older deer that previous year. And a buck like this, you know, he automatically maybe moves up that totem pole, and that could have something to do with him being a little more all over the place. Little things like that, following these deer's personalities and movement patterns is definitely a lot of fun. And the other cool thing is I looked through the sheds from that farm, and I actually had one shed from him from last year. The year I had one picture, I also had the shed. So even though I didn't really know it, it's cool having history with a deer that you're able to put on the ground. After the season ended, I went back out and sat in the two different blinds that we have, just to kind of observe what bucks are out there and get some good footage, and specifically look for a deer that I called Hermit. He was a deer that I had multiple encounters with this year and passed up because he's only 4.5 this year. And every time I saw him, his limp got worse. He was limping on one of his front legs pretty hard. And I was a little bit worried that he had died or something happened to him, just because I hadn't seen him in a while. And sure enough, he came out one of the nights. He didn't move a whole lot, but he didn't look terrible. I was assuming that he would probably make it through the season. And I went back a couple nights later and got more footage of him, and he had shed one side. But I definitely think he has a really good chance of making it. He might be my #1 target going into next year, depending on what he does. So I'm excited now to get out and do some shed hunting, do some walking with the landowner, and keep finding some of these deer we know, finding sheds from them, and keep building that history. That's got to be my favorite part of the management process, is just learning the deer as individuals, and that challenge of learning their personality. That's my favorite part. So hopefully we can get out and find some antlers. And with that being said, appreciate you guys' support this year, and I hope you enjoy the season highlight.
It's October 15th, and Zach and I are back in the stand. I've been having a lot of action in over the past few weeks. And tonight, we're on another front end of a cold front, and the pressure is just coming up like crazy. Zach, right here. You see him? Yep. Okay, let's shoot him. Right.
That's Joker. That is awesome. The other thing that we looked at before every sit was the weather. We've been keen on these October cold fronts.
Well, it's the afternoon of October 16th here in southern Iowa. This spot works out so well for us because the deer come out and feed in this little cove. But the main reason we're in this spot is we're hunting a big old buck that we got quite a few years of history with. Look at that whitetail. Holy smokes. I cannot believe that. Alright, well, it's October 16th, and Aaron and I are back on the river unit. We actually take the canoe up the river here. It's actually our first time in this stand, so we're really excited about it. Got some fresh grapes below us. Cold front in October. Can't get much better than this.
Dead, man. I think he's dead right there. But overall, it was a great hunt on public land. And if there's one thing to take away from this hunt, if you've got a cold front and high pressure, you need to be in the stand, because yesterday there were a lot of mature bucks on their feet, and it really paid off for us to be out there last night.
This has kind of been just a little honey hole for us. We've had great encounters all last year down here and already this year, so we really feel like tonight is our last good opportunity before this early muzzleloader season ends tomorrow.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
We couldn't have asked for a more exciting hunt.
We noticed that as soon as we put this hay bale blind out, they get used to it way easier, not thinking anything of it because it was just, another piece of the farm.
It's October 29th, and we're headed out for our afternoon hunt. This is a spot and a couple of deer we might be looking for. We're going to go after the decoy 8, and there's another big 9 in here, a big frame 9 that was a really cool looking deer. He's a cool deer, long tines. We just showed up on the farm. I think another thing that helped us actually tonight is, we've been trying to hit these October cold fronts.
October 29th, and Zach and I are set up for our first sit in Wisconsin. The plan is this morning we're gonna do a little bit of rattling, just some blind calling this morning. Hopefully, some nice buck that's bedded close by is gonna hear that and come check out this area.
I can't believe it. It's my biggest buck, man. I don't know what to say right now. I am so proud of this deer. I could not be any happier. 4-year-old buck here on a farm that I grew up deer hunting. This means more to me than any other deer I've ever shot.
Dang. I really thought when he was coming across this little plot behind me that he was going to go right through this open gate and give me an easy 20-yard shot, but it was close. I really thought we had a crack at him there.
It's November 1st, and Paul and I are headed to the deer stand. We call it the Maple Grove set. What they do is it's a bedding area off big grass, and they cruise into the woods and set checking for does. So I set the rest of the day in this stand. This was a buck that when we got over here I knew him. I got a lot of trail camera pictures of him in this property. And we capitalized today, and it's November 1st. I couldn't be any happier.
Well, it's November 8th this morning, and we're after 2 specific bucks. Hopefully we can get one on the ground today.
There he is right here, Taylor.
We've had a ton of rut action all around us all day long. Holy cow, that is awesome. So it just goes to show that you never know what's going to show up. I mean, it's the rut and anything can happen.
Well, it's November 11th. Zach and I actually came in here yesterday and had a pretty crazy hunt. But we brought the decoy in. But the hope is that we'll see him from the distance, we'll call to him, and they'll see the decoy and maybe come in for a shot. He heard it. Fucking over here. Come here. He can't take that. He can't take that. Holy cow, look at that thing. Look at how heavy he is. Double lung shot, coming to a decoy. What more can you ask for on public land?
Welcome to Midwest Whitetail. It is November 9th, and Scott and I are in Missouri for this week. First kill in Missouri, dude. Is I tagged on? Are you kidding me? $100 reward. All right, well, we got over here to my turkey, and we got him tagged up here. It's like a once-in-a-lifetime thing. It's got this radio collar on it. We're pretty excited. Hopefully we can get back in this afternoon and shoot a monster buck.
Welcome to Midwest Whitetail. It's November 12th, and we ended up coming down here in this draw. We're deep down in here. We got a big hillside that kind of protects us from the wind. We're gonna sit in here probably all day. The wind doesn't get any worse, and see what comes through.
I don't know. I've been feeling down and sick and stuff all this morning, but I'll tell you one thing. No matter how sick I am, this will put a smile on my face. It's November 12th, and Mike and I came back to this poor man plot, and as you can tell, it is extremely windy. I don't know if this was a good decision or not, but pretty much hoping for one buck to cruise by, and hopefully it's the right one. That's the 9. This guy came in on a mission. He read the script. He did exactly what we had hoped and exactly what we set that stand and what we planned this food plot for.
For this afternoon's hunt, I'm going back to the open gate. It's a spot that I've hunted quite a few times this season. Back the 29th of October, I had that encounter with a really nice 10-pointer back there, and since then, I can't get it out of my head that that deer might come back through there again. He's nice and wide. He's got big long brows, pretty decent mass.
Well, it's the morning of November 18th. It's a cold, blustery day today. If we see a buck cruising, we should be able to call him up here and get a shot. Should be an exciting hunt. Oh, here it comes.
Greg, there he is.
You find him? All right. Great public land buck. He's got quite a bit of character going on, and just a fighter. Just a really cool buck.
December 6th, Jared and I just made it out for an afternoon hunt. It's shotgun season here in Iowa, but fortunately, with the urban hunt, we're able to bow hunt during shotgun season. Our December 6th buck, Jared and I just had to track him about 75 yards. I almost stepped on the deer. Jared had to point him out to me. I was so focused on the ground, but it's a really nice public land, city, urban buck.
It is October 27th. We're sitting in a bottom right now. There's a really big deer down here that we're hunting.
This is a deer of a lifetime. I feel honored to be a part of it and be the one that gets to sit behind him.
Welcome to Midwest Whitetail. It's December 26th. This is a farm that is new to me this year. Got a few mature bucks on the hit list out here. One's a big 7-point. I actually encountered him 2 nights ago on a different food plot. One of the bucks been targeting on the farm, mature 7-point buck, and couldn't have asked for really a much better sit in the drizzling rain.
It's the evening of December 28th. Brett and I came out to a ground blind that I set up a while back. We're sitting over a big and beastly turnip plot.
Sure glad we were sitting over these turnips, this big and beastly plot tonight. It really paid off in a big way.
Today is January 2nd, and I'm back in a stand that actually just hung a few days ago. There he is. Yeah. I couldn't be happier. This is a great buck, and I am thrilled to cap off my 2015 deer season with him.
Well, that's it for the 2015 season here at Midwest Whitetail. Hope you've enjoyed the ride. It's been an exciting journey for us, and now we've got a month break, and then we're going to jump into the off-season series. In the off-season series, we go into a lot of topics that we really don't have time to cover during the season. We're talking about shed antler hunting. We're talking about some of the strategies that we use during the season, and really diving into more detail than what we have time for during the season. So hopefully you'll come back and join us again in another month. That's when we're going to start the off-season series. Well, I appreciate you joining us right here for the 2015 season, and we'll see you right back here again in a month for the next episode of Midwest Whitetail. And remember to always dream big.